It's great to be here with you today. And now I'd like to 63. So I'd like to start this meeting with reading a chapter from A Living Spring by Spirit Emmanuel. The text number 25, concerning Christ's gifts. But grace has been given to each one of us according to the measure of the gift of Christ. Paul. Over these 20 centuries of Christianity, the human soul has been a consciousness enlightened by reason amidst a battle for acquiring illuminative personal qualities. The battlefield is to be found within our inner life. Animality versus spirituality. Millennia of deep-set darkness against the nascent light. And human beings, between the alternatives of life and death, being reborn in the physical body and returning to the spirit life, little by little shape the sublime inner qualities that are essential for their spiritual ascension, in which, in fact, constitute the progressive virtues of Christ in each one of us. That is why divine grace occupies human existence or grows within it, insofar as the incipient, small, regular, or great gifts of Jesus are expressed in it. Wherever you may be, or whomever you may be, seek to develop Christian qualities within you with the same watchful attention that is given to cultivating precious plants in the home. As for the earth, we are all susceptible to engender good or evil. Let us offer the vessel of our hearts to the divine cultivator, bearing in mind that if the conscious soil of our spirit accepts his seed, then each crumb of our goodwill will most certainly become a miraculous channel for the exteriorization of the good, with the ongoing multiplication of the gifts of the Lord all around us. Observe your good side and remember you can increase it infinitely. Do not try to destroy millennia of darkness all at once. Strive for self-improvement each and every day. Persevere in learning from the Master of love and selflessness. Let us not forget that divine grace will fill our personal space according to our real growth in the gifts of Christ. So let's close our eyes and pray. Pray for the good Father to keep us giving all the tools, all the knowledge and all the feelings we need to keep pursuing His path. This path which is full of happiness, fulfilling, and peace. We thank God for the opportunity to connect with His divine laws, expressed by our opportunities we have every day to access our conscience. Let us pray together as a team in our pursuit of getting touched by the knowledge, by the feelings that Jesus left us quite a while ago, but that still lives with us. Let's pray to all those that are with us, physically or in spirit or in thoughts. May the light, the peaceful light, and the loving light of Jesus reach us all, not only today in this meeting, but also in every day, every second, every thought of our lives. So be it. All right, so yeah, thanks a lot for being here. It's always, it fills our heart when we have this chance to present something to hear to our fellows.
And Victor sat in the
furthest
corner.
For me, yeah.
It'll be. Yeah, no, it's good because then it feels like it's know what you mean. So what the idea today is to talk about what are the wants and the needs of the Good Spiritist, right? And most of the times when we are looking for, I don't know, the meaning of life and all these things, we tend to go to, okay, so what is the thing that I want to do, right? What is my goal here? But there is a clear difference, at least most of us would recognize, that want and need, they are different things, right? It's easy when, especially when you have kids. It's so yeah, you might want this now, but that's not exactly what you need. You might want a candy before going to bed, but again, that's not exactly what you need. And then putting these things together, the wants and needs, in a different perspective, right? In previous talks, we tend to focus on the immortal spirit, right? And that's because we all are immortal spirits. But then in this 45 minutes or so, I would like to couple the wants and needs with the good spiritist as described in the Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 17. Be perfect. I was 25 or 17 now. No, I'm lost. So it's the chapter Be Perfect, and now that is a subsection there is all about the spiritists, right? So we're gonna go back and forth with that, and then actually see a few things about the wants and how psychology understands it these days, and how it actually can be messed up or be understood from a different perspective, given our knowledge of the mortal life. So then, to get us started, so what do you want and need as a human? What we want as human, we are all human beings, right? What do we want and need as good spiritists or Christians? As far as I understand, last I checked, we're all humans, we're all good spiritists and Christians. And the same thing, what do we need and what do we want as an immortal spirit? There are three different persons here, but they're not different, right? They're all the same. But sometimes we will go and focus one and not the other, and then that might be troubling. But then, when you try and answer that question, what do you need and what do you want, there is a follow-up question that is as important as. So, what do I need? What do I want? For what? What I'm trying to achieve, right? What do I need to get from A to B? It's different from what do I need to come here today. And then the for what? It's what should mix all these things, because the final goals of the immortal spirit are the goals that we should be seeking as Christians or as good spiritists and as humans. So then, anytime we go and think about, okay, so let me try to understand what I'm going through in this particular situation, what are my wants and what are my needs? But then the question that should follow this train of thought is like, for what? What I'm trying to achieve. Am I trying to be a better human being? Am I trying to connect with God in different ways? Am I trying to just get rid of my boss who is very annoying? Right? So the for what will be the ruler in terms of morality. Because what do you want, what you need, if it is agreeing with this higher sense of morality, then we'll be in a good shape and will bring us good stuff. And then we go to chapter 17. Be perfect, the Good Spiritists. And then I think we can read it through. It's going to be like 5 slides or so. But after that, we won't have too much reading. So just bear with me for a moment. So the Good Spiritist. And then we start item number 4. Spiritism, when thoroughly understood and above all, when deeply and sincerely felt, leads to the results already expounded, which characterize the true Spiritist just as much as the true Christian. So, if we do understand Spiritism, it makes up Christian and Spiritism, right? That's okay. We kind of know that, right? For they are one and the same. Spiritism does not institute any new morals, and that's quite an important aspect of it, right? Because then we might sometimes think that, because I'm studying and understanding Spiritism now is bringing me new, different things to learn or new morals, but actually not, because all the morals were set, the moral standards were set by someone else before, by Jesus. It only makes it easier for mankind to understand and practice Christ's morals by giving an unshakable and enlightened faith to those who are in doubt or who waver. It's the tool that is helping us a lot to understand all those moral standards, and it's giving us this unshakable and enlightened faith, because it's clear now. There's no there's no workaround, right? We have messages from good spirits that are pretty clear to us, what is good and what is bad, or what to follow, what not to follow, and what to want and what to need. Meanwhile, many of those who believe in the fact of mediumistic manifestations do not comprehend the consequence nor the far-reaching moral effects. Or if they do, then they do not apply them to themselves. So there is the first step to comprehend the moral effects by now knowing that we'll live forever. And then if you understand, we gotta apply it to these moral effects. We gotta apply to these moral standards to your life. To what is this attributed? Is it due to some failing in clarity of the doctrine? And the answer will be no. Because it does not contain any allegories or forms which could lead to false interpretations. Clarity is the very essence from which it gets its strength, because it touches man's intelligence directly, right? And we are very smart beings, and anytime we have contact with the doctrine and say, "Oh, this makes lots of sense. This explains a lot. There's logic behind it." That's the clarity of the doctrine, just clearing out all these false interpretations and say like, "Hey, no, actually, this clarity is good because it's connecting to my intelligence, and it's there. I can understand, right?" There is no mystery, and those who are initiated are not in possession of any secrets hidden from the people. So whatever we learn and whatever we feel is not secret. It can be reached by anyone else. It's not that we have now a secret power or a secret magic, that because now we know the life extends beyond this life and other things that come together with the doctrine, that we are privileged in a sense that we have this content. It's not the case, because we learn over these years that every single one of us, regardless if practicing the doctrine or not, in our inner self, we do have the means to connect with Christ's gift, Christ's teachings. So is it indispensable then to possess an outstanding intelligence in order to understand? And again, the answer is no. We're almost there. So no, in as much as there are people of notable capacities who do not understand, whereas there are many of ordinary intelligence, even young people who grasp the meaning of even the most delicate points with remarkable precision. So it's not related to the intelligence per se, but having such teachings in such a clear form, is transparent, right? It connects with the intelligence, but it doesn't mean that someone who is really smart should know this, or someone that has ordinary intelligence will not have access to it.
Because in the past, the Spirit said, actually this is a Kardec's message.
Yeah.
It said that Spiritism touches the intelligence,
Yeah.
right? And then now it comes,
But you don't.
But that's not enough.
It touches. It's not enough, and it touches. But all of us will have the intelligence necessary to move forward with to be touched. Yeah. So this proves that the so-called physical part of science only requires eyes to be able to observe, while the essential part demands a certain degree of sensitivity, which can be called maturity in the moral sense, and which is quite independent of age or level of education, because it is peculiar to the spiritual advancement of the incarnate soul. So then this part say, okay, the physical part of what we see, most obviously the mediumistic effects. It's something that, so you only require eyes to see. But to understand the moral sense that comes with it comes with maturity, right? And maturity is independent of age, of life education, because we all carrying like our baggage from previous lives, from previous experience. So the moral sense does not necessarily correlate to intelligence, and that's okay. In some people, material ties are still too strong for them to be able to release themselves from earthly things. A kind of mist with which they are surrounded does not allow them to see into the infinite future. We had that analogy in Genesis, right? Genesis book. Because the materialism, it's kind of a mist around us. It does not allow us to see what's ahead of us in terms of life, right? If you're stuck with this materialistic part of your life, then you just miss what goes beyond that, right? Because anything that is material, it's not going to carry on. And but sometimes these material ties, they will just be too strong to make us release ourselves from the earthly things, just to be able to actually have these thoughts towards the future. And the doctrine is all about future and past, right? It's not only something that is concerning our physical body here, like medicine, for instance, medical science, but it's something that goes and transcends beyond what this matter is about. This results in the fact of them not being able to break away from old tendencies or habits because they cannot see that there exists something better than what they already have. And then it goes back to the needs and wants. We're going to touch that again later on. But then, if we're not breaking away from the old tendencies, and the old tendencies, they tend to carry a lot of the material aspect of life with them, then it will be harder to see if that's something better, right, than what we already have. In some people, material ties are still too strong. Oh, that's the same thing?
Yeah.
They believe in the spirits as a simple fact, but this modifies none or very few of their instinctive tendencies. And that's, I wouldn't say it's complicated, but it's very interesting setting to think of, because by default, or from the get-go, if we have the knowledge of spirits, if we have the knowledge of a life beyond this one, it is a remarkable thing that would just move us to act differently. life should not be the same the moment we know about these things, right? It shouldn't be, because at the least you gotta be curious to see, okay, what's out there, for the very least, and then it will move us to investigate and eventually find answers that are very close to the truth shown by Jesus. But then if that's not modifying our instincts, then it is a point of friction, right? So it should be like following now. We now understand the immortal aspect of our lives, and that's actually quite the most important one. And then not following that, it's troublesome. In a word, they perceive nothing more than a small ray of light insufficient to guide them, or offer profound aspirations which would make it possible for them to overcome their inclinations. The phenomenon touches them more than the morality, which seems to them to be hackneyed and monotonous. They ask only that the spirits unceasingly initiate new mysteries without asking themselves if they have become worthy of penetrating the hidden secrets of the Creator as yet. These then are the imperfect spiritists, some of whom have remained stationary in time or have turned away from their brothers and sisters' faith due to their having drawn back before the necessity of self-reform, or perhaps they have kept sympathy with those who share the same weaknesses or prejudice. Nevertheless, it's in English, right? When you make a statement, when you put like a but, then you kind of forget what's said before. So then, nevertheless, the acceptance of the fundamental principles of the doctrine is the very first step. Is the first step, from which it will be easier for them to take a second step in a future life. So, having access to this, the knowledge that we have spirits, we will live forever. But yeah, it could, at some point at the beginning, it should be just like curiosity, or it's not impacting the morality so much. But nevertheless, this is the very first step, right? So we're always going through progress in our morality, and that's quite clear if we think about the world as it is now. Even thinking about ourselves, how we compare to ourselves years ago, we can definitely see there's lots of progress in morality happening within us and around us. And these steps will lead us to a life where, and that's the next paragraph, where the spiritual life will be more important than the material life. We're going to clearly see that. And that's what the text Good Spiritist it's about, right? It's going to be the famous sentence, what the good spirits should do, kind of.
I know. It's very interesting how they put this, because we see a lot of people who deny. They try to accept that they deny some basic points, but it's very clear what Kardec puts there. Nevertheless, the acceptance of the fundamental principle. So what are the fundamental principles of the Spiritist doctrine? Existence of God, immortality of the soul, plurality
of existences,
plurality of the inhabited worlds, and communication with the spirits.
Yeah.
So this, what Kardec is saying here is, at least has to start with this.
Yeah.
If it doesn't start with this, there is a step missed, or a jump.
Yeah,
the steps, right?
True, yeah. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, actually, and good ideas for future presentations, right? Good touching back on the basics, right? It's yeah.
So what we're
good
saying
point.
here is that it's not possible to move into the seventh step here if you don't embrace all the principles. Because
Well-
I've seen people who they accept one or two or whatever, but not holistically. So
It's always going to be like like limping, you're limping our way forward, right? Because what the doctrine brings us, and in a few paragraphs before, is the clarity of the message and all the tools or all the mechanisms these things are happening. It's quite clear, and it touches directly to our intelligence. So that's if we're trying to move forward without a good solid foundation, it doesn't mean that you cannot, right? It's just that these things will come up eventually.
Okay.
Because it's not a clear cut. Anything, nothing in spirit is more, or in life as a whole, is a clear cut, right? So you must achieve this, and we're going to see a very nice chart later on that things are also not clear cut. So you have to achieve this to move forward.
Okay.
Achieve this to move forward. So everything goes all together, but to truly feel, that means that the understanding it's quite there, and these are the basic principles that will help us, that even if you don't feel anything, you don't believe in anything, but you agree with these principles, then it is the first step towards a new sense of morality that will come with all this knowledge. And then we go to the last paragraph. The person who can justifiably classify as true and sincere spiritist is to be found on a superior level of moral progress. The spirit of this person almost completely dominates the physical body, so giving them a clear perception of the future. The principles of the doctrine, which leave many untouched, cause them to feel deep inner vibrations. So when we learn about the principles of the doctrine, how do we feel about it, right? Am I feeling this inner vibrations? So, okay, this is something new. I should embrace this in my life and actually move forward based on these principles, or not. In short, their heart is moved, and that's when it comes the feeling part of it, which is so important to provoke action. Right? The feeling, it's a good motivator to go there and act. And if you're having these inner vibrations, and if we are having our hearts moved, the actions that will come after that will be actions of good. And this is what makes their faith unshakable. It's like a musician who is touched by only a few chords, whereas another person hears only sounds. That was for me. When you have like few chords, dun 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 dun, and then a musician will experience that in a total different level. The good spiritists, the good Christians, will also listen to the music of the gospel or listen to the music of the doctrine and feel it in a different way, right? The true spiritist can be recognized by their moral transformation, and B, by the efforts they employ in order to dominate their bad instincts, right? And this is very comforting. Comforting?
Yeah, I think it is.
Okay. And the reason why I have a let me go to another picture. So let me finish this. While one is content, okay, their moral transformation, A, and the efforts they employ to dominate their bad instincts, B. So while the moral transformation is content within a limited horizon, the other, who understands the better... I'm messing up here. While one is content with a limited horizon, the other, who understands that better things exist, makes every effort to liberate himself and always manage to do this when their desire is strong and true. Okay, so the good spiritist then, it can be recognized by the moral transformation and by the efforts they employ to dominate their bad instincts. And the comforting part here, at least, and we can all share our experience here, for me is like with the efforts part, right? It doesn't matter which step you are, it's also important, right? But the effort you make to go up that ladder. And the effort, it's totally controlled by us. We have the total ability to decide in which pace we're gonna go up in this morality ladder, right? Because up there we're gonna see things differently. Up there, the mist that was not allowing us to see the light of God guiding us to the right path, that will be dissipated. The mist will not be there. And then we can, in our board, we have many different types of spirits, but it's very comforting to know everyone is climbing up. And that climb, it is related to the efforts that we put in. And I just go back for a second, because the Good Spirit is also making every effort to liberate himself, and always manage to do this when their desire is strong and true. And then we go to the desires being strong and true, which somewhat relates to the wants and needs, which is the main topic of this talk. So then the Good Spiritist, when they have their desire, their wants, their wishes strong and true in the right path, good things will come out of that, right? And the Good Spiritist, they also know that the spiritual life dominates the material life. So then whatever one is desiring strongly and truly, it would be related to the immortal aspects of our being and not the mortal aspects of our being. Okay. And then we go to something that is the current accepted theory on human needs. So Maslow was a psychologist in the 50s, and he was one of the first ones bringing psychology into understanding the human aspects as clear as this, defining human needs as in general. And let me go through a few things here over this chart. So it says that there is a hierarchy of human needs, and the bottom ones are those basic needs that, and then the higher the pyramid is, the area there is larger because it is these are the items motivating the most humans to act, right? So if you're having lack of air, water, food, shelter, sleep, clothing, reproduction, it's what motivates the humans the most to go there and act. Okay? And then as you climb up, you have the safety needs, personal security, employment, resource, health, property. These are the other things that humans, when not given access to that, they will actually go and be motivated to do stuff. Notice that we're talking about humans, right? Okay. As a whole. And then beyond that, it goes the psychological needs. So the idea is that once you have most of these fulfilled, then what you need, it's going to be the next part in the hierarchy. Right? So once you have this part, this physiological needs covered, then the needs will change in aspects, and so on and so on. And then at the third level, have love and belonging. So these psychological needs of friendship, intimacy, family, sense of connection. And then also the esteem, respect, self-esteem, status, recognition, strength, freedom. So once you move, according to Maslow, I should say that, once you move beyond the basic needs, you're fulfilling this, now your needs are going to be in a different direction of love and belonging. And once that is fulfilled, your needs will be esteem. And then on the top of everything is the need of self-actualization, right? Is someone to be the most what they can be. And that was a bit of a groundbreaking thing at the time, because to put these things in perspective, it's quite interesting, and people still use it every day to understand like shopping behavior, for instance. Right? That's one thing. But then before asking what's wrong there, let me get another perspective of it. So, according to this theory as well, happiness, the length of happiness depends on what type of needs you're fulfilling. So you're fulfilling needs of air, water, food. So if you have a nice meal, you'll be happy, right? There will be some level of happiness there, but that's not going to last long. It's going to be spent like
Until you're hungry.
yeah, until you're hungry. And then once you fulfill the safety needs, then there will be some level of happiness there, but it's not going to last long. And as you move up the pyramid, happiness lasts. So someone that are like towards that pyramid and then say like, yeah, have all these needs filled and actually work on the self-actualization, the happiness there will last longer. Okay? That's the theory behind it. I should also point two things about this, is that these three levels here are mostly external. These are external factors, right? So if you have access to water, to need, or security, employment, even friendship, family, these are things that are coming from the world to us, while the top two are things that are coming from inside out. Okay? So that's the theory, right? And that's very important. There's lots of implications everywhere. For instance, in education, if you're trying to create this sense of community, like in your school, you're trying to teach kids things, but if they're hungry, it's gonna fail, right? Because you haven't fulfilled a very basic need in that. There's many aspects that is important for the society as we understand to move forward in that. But where does it fail? And now we're gonna use our discernment. Where does it fail?
What misses? Instead of faith.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. 'Cause
What is missing?
You had a very materialistic vision there.
So I think you can still be on the top in terms of trying to be the most that you can be, even though you may be experiencing the basic needs loss or lack, or not completely being fulfilled. So what I'm trying to say is that you may find someone who is extremely unhappy in a very wealthy family and no needs at all, not even to work. So all the basic needs, the material needs are fulfilled, and still that individual cannot be on the top. And you can also find the other way around, where you have someone who comes from an extremely poor environment, etc. So basic needs are definitely not fulfilled, and that individual is still there on the
Up
top.
there and happy,
Yeah,
and with
and-
the happiness that lasts.
Yeah, and I do believe, because and it's just from experience with from my life with other individuals and even with myself, is that I do believe that religion or faith, let's put it faith, plays a big role in that, regardless if you're a spiritist or faith,
Yep.
right? Yeah.
And that's the key. You nail it. It's not so you can say it's failing or it's missing a big point. Is that the concept here is that things should be fulfilled so you can move forward, right? Move upwards, right? But that's with knowing about this the spiritual part of our life, right? We can have serious problems in filling these needs here, but it doesn't mean that I'll be a miserable person, right? On the opposite is true. Like you can have all this fulfilled, but it's still there's something missing.
People reach the roof and they're still not fulfilled.
Next slide.
Right? So that's what we have to think about.
Yeah.
Why so many people in Hollywood, for example, should be able to have all this or have, and they're still not having.
Yep.
But something is missing there.
Something is missing there, and then and the thing is that
And Maslow figured it out
in the end, yeah. But it was not published by him. They kind of got into his notes, and then he understand, because this is the published one. This is what. Okay, so then, but it's still here. What's that? So, yeah, the motivation is decreasing, right? So it could be someone like, yeah, I fulfill this, I don't care, I'll just live life, right? I have family, intimacy, I connect with people, but I'm not motivated enough to push forward. Or even if I have respect, self-esteem, I'm not motivated enough to actually to be the best that I can be. And then comes something else, yeah, Eric touched on it. It's the extended version of it. Because after a while, and from what I read, I cannot say for sure because I didn't do a thorough investigation on this, but it seems that Maslow had one of these notes somewhere that there is still a level on top of that, on top of self-actualization. And it brings everything together. And it's the self-transcendence. And it's something that is very hard to explain. Because with self-actualization, let's go that way. Self-actualization, you are trying to be the most what you can be, right? In the self-transcendence, you understand fully that you're a part of a big universe. Your actions reflect on everything else, and everything else reflects on you. It's being this. It's what we understand with the doctrine is that we're like immortal spirits, and we're all connected. And there's this huge brotherhood among all the living beings in this universe. Because that is the missing part. That again goes with faith. That goes with the religion aspect of life, and that's it goes beyond self-actualization. And then someone is still struggling to feel needs here could actually understand very well this part. So maybe the extended version, it's not this being the tip here, is maybe covering everything. Because again, it does not depend on fulfilling needs to feel like Son of God, right? We don't need to feel needs to truly understand the love that God gives us. And that's quite interesting. It's been with me, my thoughts for a while now. It's almost 2 years since I first touched base on this topic in a talk. I was in Portuguese at that time. Because everything now, when we go back to try to understand ourselves, is that so what do I need and what do I want? But now trying to match these needs and wants with the whole thing around us, right? First of all, with our spiritual life, right? And then how does that connect? Because the moment there is a disconnection, there will be a cause of pain, maybe, or anxiety. So most of our anxieties are related to things that we want. We want our family to be this way. We want my job to be that way. I want my country to be this and that. I wanted this to happen and not that. And these are causes of anxiety, right? These are the wants. But the needs are different for this mortal spirit. When you connect with everything, what are the needs then? Let me see if there's next slide. Yeah, there's another one then. So then we go to chapter 25. Now it's chapter 25. The previous one is 17. Seek and you will find. From the moral point of view, these words of Jesus signify that if we ask for the light which will show us the way, it will be given. Regardless of what we think we need and then we actually go in our prayers and ask for, if it is related to the spiritual world, if we're asking for this light that will show us the way to do good, it will be given. If we ask for strength to resist evil, we shall receive it. If we ask for the assistance of the good spirits, then they will come to accompany us, and as did the angels of Tobias, they will guide us. If we ask for good counsel, it will not be refused. If we knock on his door, it will be opened. But, again, the but, right? So everything before the but is saying, yeah, so we have all the rights to ask and to try to fulfill needs when in our prayers asking to God for light, for guidance, for counsel. But we must ask with sincerity, faith, confidence, and fervor. We must present ourselves with humility and not with arrogance, or else we'll be abandoned to our own strengths, and the falls taken will be punishment for our pride. So, if we're asking with pride, or if we're asking for things that are not relevant for our immortal spirit, then is it going to be we're going to open all the doors of heaven and say, oh yeah, of course, here's your new car, here's your new family, or But if it's put in the right place, it will be given to us. And that's again quite comforting. So, because I now know that I should be focusing on the spiritual part of my life, and my wants and needs, the true ones, are related to that part. And then if I ask something, I'll be given. Is it given in a sense that, there you go, oh Lord, I need patience. Bling. Patience, you are. No, of course not, right? But I guess you know what I'm...
I find it interesting that this chapter 6 you will find so basically describes what became a fever a few years ago. I'm serious, that the little book and movie called The Secret. And Jesus already told us that. Spiritism clarified on it. And the problem is it brings the integral view of the being. And there they created a version of a
materialistic part of it, yeah?
Right. So if you want to have a nice car,
just think about
seek
it.
and you will find.
Yeah.
But it's dubious and very, very mistaken, putting simple as this, because a lot of people get their car, but they're still not happy.
God gave me, yeah.
They get their big castle they live, they're still not happy. And what's wrong?
Yeah.
What they're asking is what they're asking right.
Yeah, and that's the key part of the of our connection today here, is to what is the wants and needs. What are the wants and needs? Are from the materialistic perspective, and I swear it's not related to Black Friday. Yeah, Black Friday happened. So, and then you think of like all the materialistic thing, but it's not related. It's just like, are we putting, when we're trying to understand ourselves, then we're asking like, what do I want? What do I need? Am I saying this from the perspective of an immortal spirit, or from a perspective of someone who will die very soon and the material part will be gone and it didn't matter? And that's exactly the connection we wanted to do here. What are the wants and needs of the Good Spiritist? Okay. And then, so thinking forward, right, how things will be moved on. As society progresses, there will be less and less people in need of water, security. There will be less and less people in need of food, right? And then the pyramid will kind of revert, right? And we're starting to feel these effects now, because again, especially here, we live in a country that is it's very good to its citizens, and then most of the basic needs are kind of met, right? And then it comes to the upper part and say, hey, what do we really need to do next, right? Self-actualization and self-transcendence is to understand that we are actually We're larger than this life. And so the pyramid will be interesting, like 200 years from now, would be people motivated to get water? Maybe yes, maybe not, probably not. But all this mental illness the mental health crisis we face these days, especially in the developed countries, it's because, so you kind of feel this by default, and then what's next, right? And then if the what's next, it's related to only material things, then it's troubling. Okay, so thanks a lot, and I would like to just finish this with Paul, as he wrote to Philippians. Rejoice in the Lord always. I'll say it again, rejoice. Let your gentleness be evident to all. The Lord is near. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your request to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. So, it's not that we don't want or we don't need. Yes, we do. And Paul is saying, don't be anxious, just present this request to God. But as long as they are focused on the right aspects of our life. So with that, I'd like to open the floor for further comments. I'm not sure we're doing okay with time. I know we'll have maybe the kids presenting anything today, maybe not.
They should, but I don't know.
Yeah, but comments are welcome. Yeah.
When you mentioned about the fundamental steps, the image that came to mind was, or how we need to accept the fundamentals so we can move forward. The image that came to mind was a human, for example, with 4 legs, and each fundamental is 1 leg, so let's say we have 4 fundamentals. I can still move a few steps without having to accept other fundamentals, because I have 4.
Yeah.
But it'll get to a point where I can't stretch myself further.
Yeah.
I need to accept that last fundamental so that I'll keep moving forward. So it's not like we have to accept them all to take the first step, I think. But you can do one at a time. But eventually, you're going to need them all to keep moving.
And you can match that with the analogy of the climb, right?
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, oh,
it'll be easier to climb when you have like all the faculties or the understanding in the right place.
I have 2 comments. The first of all, if we look, can you bring the Maslow triangle? Yeah. If we look at this and imagine how does it fit Francis of Assisi, because he gave up Francis.
Okay, Francis.
He gave up all of his physiological needs. He gave up his safety needs. He developed a lot but he basically inverted the triangle, and he lived for the self-transformation, the self-transcendence, than anything else. So the basic needs didn't really, right? So my reflection is, as a superior superior spirit, do we still follow this? So that's my first reflection. I don't know the answer, but I clearly see that he gave up on this because he felt he didn't need it anymore.
Yeah.
Because he was, or Paul is exactly the same example. He gave up all the safety needs, all physiological needs that he needed, and he went. He delivered himself.
So
right?
So superior spirits, they would see this as a part of a transition, like it's just part of this material world, so it's not what really matters. So they will understand, they see this as something that is transitional, it's temporary. I think that's the better word. still they will see this layer here as opportunities to connect to everything, to transcend, right? Because it will be on these challenges here that we'll have the chance to develop virtues, right? The gifts from Christ. It will be from this life that we live now with all these material needs that we will get better immortal spirits, because we're gonna face through a few challenges. We're gonna face them, and depending on how we react, we're gonna learn something related to the moral part of it. And it's for your question was like, how would they kind of see it and how do you understand it? It is probably going this direction that this is opportunity. It's not the main thing. It's just the channel that you will be invited to develop your moral sense, develop your virtues. So then when you talk about Francis, he had this higher sense of what matters in life. And for him it was clear, it's not that, right? It's the other things, it's the message that is going through.
A simple way, a simple tool.
Yeah.
The other point is in connection to the Good Spiritist text. It's how important, and you closed with a beautiful reflection of Paul, which is anxiety.
Yeah.
Anxiety is something that keeps us away from being good spiritists, because we don't put the things on the sequence where they were supposed to, or at least see myself walking in a, because each one of us will walk in a different way, right? There is no recipe that will work exactly for each one of us, but we know where we want to go, and not having anxiety of I want to be there right now, or I want to be there tomorrow, or I want to be there next month, but I will do what is need to be done. It's very important, because a lot of people give up on Spiritism, unfortunately, and mainly connected to the message again because their faith wasn't touched yet. Because they see the moral through their intelligence, they want to apply it, but they see that's a hard work. It's not an easy work. And then they decide, okay, I don't have time for that. I have 2 kids, I have work, I have a wife, I have a family, and maybe I have people sick in my family, I have a lot of stuff to do. So they start giving up. Or, which is the worst side, is I see all this, I need to do everything for tomorrow. And then this anxiety just keeps the person away, and then start developing depression, start seeing as a bad person, and it is really tough. So with all this, I really would like to invite us all to reflect how our anxiety is these days to defeat our ego and let the essential being shine.
Yeah. And the anxiety you mentioned is that someone who, when we understand and we want to apply, like as in a wholesale, like boom. And then there's the other type of anxiety that's when your wants are not exactly reflected on the immortal spirit. It's the wants of this now. And then because you cannot get it, then you may get it, you may not. It's not up to you, right? Because these things are external. Then the anxiety of, oh yeah, like, why God? I'm asking so like, they think it's so faithfully, but it's just the wrong ask. Right? It is misplaced. It's totally misplaced. But these anxieties, it's a big red flag, because whenever we're feeling that, and it very often feels it, it's okay. So where is it coming from? Is it related to a need? Is it related to a want? Is it related to my mortal being or my current life? So it's these are all important things to think and to be sure that the answers are very close to us. The answers are very, very, very close to us. Most of them inside us when we decide to investigate and then actually see, like, does it make sense or not?
This is the beauty of Spiritism, or Christianism, because it comes with lightness, it comes with a lot of peace. We don't need to force anything on ourselves or on other people. It's very sad when people go to a Spiritist center and leave there more anxious than they got in.
Yeah. So. Well, I hope this presentation didn't create any anxiety.
No, but I also think it's a doctrine that all of a sudden someone is telling you that you're not perfect and that your destiny you own. So there's no blaming. You can't blame anyone but yourself. So it brings a lot of responsibility, and therefore it may increase anxiety, because all of a sudden, I don't know about all the other, religions that are out there, but most of them are going to tell you that when you come to a place, you pray or you do whatever, and things are going to be well. And we don't necessarily say that. We say that, well, as a matter of fact, it's your responsibility, right? And I've seen that in my family. I've seen that with friends who gave up on this doctrine because all of a sudden we're bringing the responsibility to them, right? And sometimes when they lose, family members, right? And they do not accept the fact that it's actually God is still good, even though you don't have a father and a mother anymore, and you were left alone on this planet. So it is not. Some people may find this doctrine not very comforting in this sense, because you're bringing whole responsibility to yourself, and it can be very tough to hear that.
And most of the time we don't want this.
We don't want that, because I'm already busy with my 2 kids and with my life.
And I have to take care of my future.
And I come here and you tell me that on the top of everything I do, I have to better myself so that things get. No, I don't need to listen to
We're
that.
here all the time.
Yeah,
ignorance is a
right?
beast,
Right? Yeah. So absolutely. Yeah. Whereas, it is.
But you know what? Like, it's the climb up the steps, right? It's.
Whereas for me, I find it, I was born in a family, and I was born in the Spiritist. I mean, that was all I knew as a kid, so I don't know anything different. I know from other people, right? I think it would be very hard for me to, looking in the past, with the things I've lived in my life, I think it would be even harder for me to go through those components in my life if I didn't have this. Knowing that this is one piece of something much bigger, and there is a reason why this thing is happening, and the fact that I don't know is okay. But without that, I can't gauge how other people do with that, because I don't know any different, right?
Yeah, no, it is very comforting, the doctrine as a whole. We as a group, we have the chance, for instance, to study like the Genesis, and chapters talking about God and life and how things are created and so on. Even when it gets too technical, in a sense that, these are how things happen and so on, you can, if you really reflect on it, you can, that has a way bigger impact in my moral life and my understanding of life, that will just set things ease, right? And it's not bringing new morals. Like that's what the text starts with. That it's not bringing new morals. It's all about the gospel that is already there. It's just clarifying things to us, make us have access to that easier. Okay, so I have something there.
They were just waiting for you.
Oh, big crowd you got here.